The same concerns Cole raised about functional miscegenation and the desire to separate the roles of artists and politician arguably inform the following item published in the Afro Americans Grapevine News during the same period with regard to Dick Gregory. Quote, Dick Gregory's number one guy for many reasons, but we can't believe that he's seriously thinking of running Congress in his Chicago district next year. End quote. At this time, there were still very few black representatives in Congress, and of that small number, California's Augustus Hawkins had only just been elected, while two others were effectively missing in action. Philadelphia's Robert Nix and Chicago's William Dawson. Dawson, closely tied to the patronage network that controlled the second city's politics, quote, used his personal power to enhance his political position and influence in Congress and did not serve blacks in general, end quote, suggests political scientist Haynes Walton. After the Chicago branch of the NAACP criticized him for his silence regarding the lynching of Emmett Till and his failure to support Adam Clayton Powell's effort to prohibit federal support for segregated schools. Dawson exercised his influence to remove the NAACP leadership in the city and marginalize it within local politics. He would later oppose King's efforts to establish the SCLC in Chicago, stating, quote, what does King mean coming in here trying to tell our citizens that we are segregated? Chicagoans know what's best for Chicagoans. End quote. Powell, Harlem's representative and the black elected official most committed to the arts of explicit performance, was certainly engaged on the civil rights front, construed broadly, but he was consumed at this point with his own battle with the NAACP. and was moving toward a quote black power end quote position. There was also tension between Powell and the South oriented SCLC. For Powell, his ability as chair of the House Committee on Education and Labor to raise the minimum wage was more important than any gains Southern protesters might make in general. Paul seemed as committed to protecting his turf as Black America's preeminent representative as to cooperating with the effort to change the conditions under which many of his constituents, in the broadest sense, live. Detroit's Charles Diggs was involved with the struggle on the ground. Oh, sorry. And was actually in the South during the 1963 campaign on a quote fact finding tour. End quote. While staying at the home of Aaron Henry, the president of the Mississippi branch of the NAACP, Diggs assisted in putting out a fire that was ignited by two bombs thrown at the house, telling reporters that he intended to ask the House Judiciary Committee to conduct an investigation of conditions in the region. He added that he planned to testify himself and that he, quote, unquote, and that the, quote, hearings would have great psychological impact, which would be of great benefit to both sides, end quote. In other words, while some of the black members of Congress were willing to represent the concerns of the civil rights community within the arenas of formal politics, there was a shortage in terms of human capital. Moreover, as often as these elected officials were working toward the same goals, we're live. Move. Come. No, black it, you can pass. Black it, you can pass.
May I hear reading too?
Read and discuss. Guys, here comes my sister with a feminine touch. Watch her pull up. Come, just cheese him.
Shut up, you're too jealous. Dad!
This
I'm
is
right
not the
here.
time for that. That is outside. This is reading
Shut
Richard.
up. Shut up.
Sure.
Go on read. Where's my cup of tea there?
What?
Where's my tea? I need tea. If we're gonna have discussion, I need my
Like you know, wake up yet?
no man, I need the tea in my system so I can have great discussions based on what you're reading.
Guys, this interruption is my sister. She named Kay.
Oh, I want
Your favorite sister?
your favorite sister. Too. All right, go ahead.
When we
babe.
reach, when we reach. Jeez, please.
But
Can you cut it down, please? Cut it down. Cut it down to 2 words tonight. That's 2 words.
Bookmark.
Or 4, no more. All right.
Bookmark.
In this light, serious or not, a campaign for Congress by Gregory and his home district in Chicago was hardly far fetched, especially given the inactivity of some of these elected officials and their marginal status
Mm.
with regard to the making of black politics in this period. You understand everything, sir?
No.
Marginalized. Such a big word.
What am I tell you? What am I tell you? What am I tell you? What am I tell you tonight?
Dad, you need to talk to your son.
Mhm.
He's a little bit irate here.
Jesus Christ.
Go on,
You
True.
pray to Satan until you come bother me, though.
Go on, True. Go on, True, man. Go on, True. Yeah, listen,
Yeah, I'm
listen.
on Spanish breakfast tomorrow. What you cook tomorrow? Give me Italian. Give me that. Give me that.
You know I was gonna get that, but
Oh.
you keep talking to me like that, you ain't gonna get nothing.
My sister said I'm money for me. Buy some flour and rice and chunks.
How much money I get?
I
So
want all coconut oil. I want vegetable based foods.
where
Zane?
you get so much money?
My sister said I'm money.
Which sister that?
One of my sisters. Not you. You don't do that.
That's right.
Listen, more flour, rice, and vegetable base. I want a chicken, but I want a chicken, I want a meat, I want a beef.
You need to send me that list, okay? Could you continue reading, please? Daddy and I are waiting. Don't
Mighty
get
God
that.
of Daniel.
Go ahead.
Underlying Nat King Cole's statements was some concern about the impact of civil rights activism on his career, especially given the punishment Robinson received on the financial front. This real and understandable fear, which Lorraine Hansberry had identified in a speech the previous fall, explains Cole's references to, quote, losing thousands of dollars, end quote, and being, quote, finished in the only life he knew, end quote. 5 months earlier, New Orleans native and pianist Anton Fats Dominique had expressed similar reservations about the financial professional implications of public civil rights activism, stating that he would begin playing segregated venues again. Quote, I've lost thousands and thousands of dollars in the past because I've gone along with the NAACP and it has hurt my reputation as a performer. End quote. He told the press, open quote, I won't do it anymore. End quote. Case of quiet, me beat you know where do? Where I think? Where I think?
I'm
I try to
listening.
platter you and I think.
I'm listening. This is interesting.
The chat item book.
Okay.
Sorry. After being roundly criticized by blacks, Domino backpedaled a little bit and a week later asserted, quote, I know from my heart that the NAACP is the greatest friend of the minorities, end quote. Beyond financial concerns, Cole and others also had serious doubts about the ability of the SCLC
Mm.
and other civil rights groups to bring about real change and the effectiveness of the non-violent approach.
Very effective.
He calculated if now the non-violence approach used, sorry, if now he calculated the non-violence approach used by the NAACP and Dr. King, despite the current success, would break down as we, as Negroes, had to defend ourselves. I'd be right on the firing line. End quote. This particular worry was based on real life experience. Okay, if you ever come back with up before they say, yo, I think about the whole time now. Alright.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee.
Well,
Blessed are those named
you know, on a
Xavier.
meeting, I'm gonna tell him more on plant-based everything. Zane, plant-based food and the coconut oil and flour and rice.
Can you
Alright.
continue reading?
Daddy, this woman not gonna bring back white people food to me, no, sir.
That's what plant-based is, babe. White people food. Then you're not plant-based all day. You have yam and cocoa
Me tell him more.
and dasheen.
Oh, alright, we never explain. More on the starch for the rice and flour.
Do you want jasmine rice or you just want regular rice?
That's nice, but I don't know if you can go there. So.
You want jasmine rice?
Yeah. But remember, in a plant based everything here, no.
Of course, sweetheart.
I think what I left over some.
Jesus. We can't hear the book in the daddy because I'm busy at that.
The this particular worry was based on real life. In April 1956, in the middle of a show in Birmingham, Alabama, for an all-white audience, a show later that evening would be for blacks only. Cole physically assaulted by 5 men, was physically assaulted by 5 men. Quote, man, I love show business, but I don't want to die for it.
But why would we have a black only venue when the oppression we're trying to get away from is exactly what we're doing to others? We're excluding. You know, the whole exclusion. That's so crazy. Let them come so they can spend money too. I enjoy the show. Right?
We're not in cold.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing what we're fighting for is equality, and we want to be treated as everyone else, and then we isolate other people. That's a really bad message, right?
Man,
I don't agree with everything during the 60s, you understand? So some of those social movements that took place back then, for example, the LCLC and all that, the nonviolent movement, I think that was probably one of the best things that could have happened. The nonviolent movement, but as far as,
But the thing I just problem now.
of course,
And people don't believe in that.
of course. But if you look at our history, I mean, we really haven't solved anything, have we?
The benefits of history. You see all the part what they play. Yes, baby.
man, I love show business, but I don't want to die for it. He would comment afterward, while stating that he would continue to play venues that barred blacks and leave politics, quote, to the other guys, end quote.
Because why would you affect your money to prove a point?
This pronouncement led to plans by black audiences to boycott Cole's shows and recordings, in response to which he purchased a $500 lifetime membership with the NAACP.
And that quashed it, right? What do you consider that a sell? So you want to buy you? He bought peace, didn't he? Interesting.
In the same issue of The Defender that carried Cole's interview, there was a short piece entitled, quote, Gregory tells of beating in Birmingham jail, end quote, detailing the comedian's treatment at the hand of the city's police. Quote,
I think there's a
sorry, you leave the world when you go into the Birmingham jail, end quote. He wrote with regard to the extra legal character of southern jails. Quote, it was the most miserable experience of my entire life,
Being in jail in Alabama.
end quote.
Hmm.
You
I
ever go
can
to
only
jail?
imagine.
You ever go to jail?
Pardon?
You ever go to jail?
Mhm.
You go to jail.
You
It's
go-
kind of look out for me, rate me, you know. Really hard, man.
I wouldn't be able to survive.
I feel I found that really I think look at him what this game was.
Hmm.
In Birmingham.
Mm. Showing reporters the quote 6 to 8 inch welt on his left forearm, end quote. The St. Louis native stated that he and an quote an estimated 500 prisoners, end quote, had been assaulted by officers, quote, using billy clubs, hammers, and sawed-off pool sticks, end quote. Gregory, who had been initially invited to get involved in the Southern campaign by Medgar Evers, was arrested while leading a group of teenagers who were protesting segregation. And his contract was the, was terminated at the Galaxy Night clubs in St. Albans, New York, because, in his view, he had committed publicly to devote his quote entire weekly salary, 5,500, to help voter registration efforts in Greenwood, end quote. Gregory, in an effort to use the Cold War propaganda contest in support of the relatively narrow ambitions of this phase of the civil rights movement, said, quote, this is the only way to get freedom. They call us. What? All right. They call, Hold on. Sorry. On way to get freedom. Yeah, they call us communists. Well, I say the Negro in the South is treated like East Germans who want the freedom of West Berlin. End quote. Of course, these elements of the American press were indirectly red baiting civil rights activists and encouraging them to reject the internationalist commitments of Robeson's cohort. Quote, the communist press. Throughout Europe, the defender observed, quote, was bitterly attacking the United States and its racial troubles in Birmingham, Alabama. Other artists were more reluctant to participate on the front lines of the movement against the backdrop of the Birmingham campaign. Popular ballada and South Carolina native Brooke Benton expressed reservations about the philosophy of non-violence. Accordingly, he suggested that he might not be the best candidate to participate on the front lines of the movement as he was, quote, not a non-violent Negro, end quote. Performers such as Josh White, Ray Charles expressed similar reservations, while Mahalia Jackson, staple singers, former drifter Clyde McFadder, and Sam Cooke raised funds and awareness by other means, along with the Impressions and their lead singer and songwriter Curtis Mayfield. Perhaps the artists whose recording were most likely to be found on movement turntables was Nina Simone, emerging in the late Kia come back 1950s. Kia within the rhythm and blues field, albeit classically trained and quite singular in the context of the genre. Simone found herself resisting the restrictions characteristic of the music industry and inspired by her interactions with individuals such as Lorraine Hansberry, James Baldwin, and Langston Hughes. As a result of these interactions, Simone wrote, quote, to be young, gifted, and black. Oh, what is? What is that? Massive, this one come on. We'll find the phone, we'll find it. Oh, find the phone. Look like a treat on the person card, probably important. No, this works, sorry. Them call again. Them call again. I can't, no, understand it. One two 8812.
¿Qué? ¿Qué?
Alright, them call back. Them call back. Don't give to them block. Where are you, man? Yeah, man, try to find out how much it is. Somebody don't give to them block.
¿Qué? I see your son, that's young, gifted, and
Yeah. Here, daddy, I sing, come. Yeah, we'll find it. I'll go fair. Come on, sir. Don't give to them block.
Been up on camera while I'm at it.
Sorry, boo. Sorry, boo.
Becky, take me off. When I send something with a driver.
A driver come
Yeah.
tomorrow?
Today.
oh,
You start to send something with a driver.
debe.
A driver come tomorrow?
Today.
What is a driver coming tomorrow?
I bring with.
Oh, look.
Without you already.
Simone wrote, quote, to be young, gifted, and black, end quote, with Weldon Irvine, referencing the title of the play Hansberry was working on before her death from cancer in 1965 at age 34. By this point, Simone had also added to the public record the most explicit civil rights oriented composition of the period. Self explanatory, quote, Mississippi goddamn, end quote. In her autobiography, she recalls that after the murder of Medgar Evers in the infamous church bombing in Birmingham in September 1963 that killed four young girls. Quote, I had it in my mind to go out and kill someone. I didn't know who, but someone I could identify as being in the way of my people getting some justice for the first time in 300 years. End quote. Persuaded by her husband, and she, quote, knew nothing about killing, end quote. She writes, open quote, I did know about music. I sat down at my piano an hour later. I came out of my apartment with the sheet music for quote Mississippi Goddam in my hand. It was my first civil rights song, and it erupted out of me quicker than I could write it down. End quote. Indeed, the recording sounds as if it was written in a rage with its staccato rhythm and take no prisoners lyrical thrust. Simone subsequently became a regular featured performer at civil rights benefits in support of SNCC, including at some risk to her personal safety at venues on the front lines of the South. She was, though, concerned about the possibility of harm and was quite resistant to not being compensated for her efforts. Open quote. It's all well and good, sir, but I'm not gonna get myself killed. I'm not gonna give up my life to please this group or that group. I'm doing what I'm doing. I want to make some money. End quote. The artist most closely identified with the civil rights cause in this period was Hada Belafonte, who met King in 1956. Their close friendship was reflected in Belafonte's participation in the committee to defend Martin Luther King, formed when Alabama sought to prosecute King for tax evasion. Belafonte also supported the King family by paying the premiums for a life insurance policy.
Oh shit.
For
For real. He paid the premiums for a life insurance policy. That's pretty awesome.
King, at a time when few companies were willing to provide affordable coverage for him, having formed a relationship with the endorsed John F. Kennedy in 1960. He also provided a link between the SCLC and the White House. Moreover, Belafonte played a crucial role, along with Sammy Davis Jr., in getting members of the liberal Hollywood community to appear at civil rights benefits. Belafonte was also present in the South and active in ways that made a favorable impression on those engaged in the trenches. Arguing with his longtime friend Sidney Poitier about the wisdom of making a trip to Mississippi to deliver money to SNCC members. Belafonte said,
Slick.
hmm?
Slick.
Slick?
SNCC. Slick.
SNCC, so it name Slick?
Yeah, it's an acronym.
Oh man. Also NAAC and Snick.
Slick is something different from NAAC.
Okay.
Right. Right, Dad. See, Daddy know that. Huh. Shut up.
See,
Dad,
see,
talk to Zadie. Bothering me. Don't talk me up. Okay, you go, bud. What else what the money I gonna do? Me and my father go
when
eat
you go on
some.
the plane and see the
Me
pilot,
and my daddy go eat sushi tomorrow for my money. Enough money, no daddy.
when you go on the plane, yo, what up, yo? When you go on the plane and see the pilot, say,
No, I'm usually crying. I want to leave Jamaica. I want to go back. I miss my dad.
indeed, it is estimated. Huh?
Yes, daddy? Yes.
Sir, we reach 45 minutes, sir. I'll continue because of the poil one. Because of the poil one, I can't ruin everything. Jeez. One to our bed. One to your bed when you like your bed.
Who that?
Yo!
Who you talk to? Dad? Me don't talk about eating them what I had, you know. You go make me get ethnic in here. Okay?
I go up the road and buy 10 pack of bubble gum. And when you sleep, I rub it in your ear.
Oh,
Belafonte,
Lord.
unreached. Jesus Christ. Can you just undo everything? Okay. Belafonte said our presence there will be a very forceful morale booster for a lot of kids who have been in that area all summer. It will be good for them to see us. End quote. Indeed, it is estimated that Belafonte devoted roughly one-fifth of his income to funding a range of activities, including SNCC, SNCC. You know what I call foolishness? You know? I use a SNCC, you know?
No, it is like,
Oh, so what is SCLC?
SCLC.
Within the broader civil rights movement itself, as a member of the Council of Advisors of the SCLC and an important contact person for SNCC. I bet you say foolishness. When people call me sneakers, I really know. Remember me now?
No,
Oh,
yeah, that's a good group.
within the broader civil rights movement itself, as a member of the Council of Advisors of the SCLC and an important contact person for SNCC and the Southern campaign as a whole. Belafonte connection also allowed him to function as a uh, cost co-strategist in points and an effective arbitrator when disputes arose between the SCLC and SNCC, and indeed most of the other civil rights groups. Last paragraph. In contrast to Belafonte's example, Ralph Ellison continued to posit that the roles of artists and politicians should remain separate and
Equal.
consistent with his reading of the blues as political theory, that American blacks ultimately did not have the means to determine or change their circumstances. Quote, outcome of the struggle in the South, he suggested in regard to the Birmingham campaign. Quote, rest in the hands of those who have the power of violence in their hands. And that is not the Negroes. End quote. While he offered verbal support for King, he hoped that the marches would be, quote, carried on into the North, end quote. He noted that his appointment at Rutgers University would prevent him from actually marching. Okay, guys, any more mistake? Sorry. Okay, guys, peace out. Make it
There's
sweat.
no man.
It's really interesting. I have to agree, Dad.
Hmm?
I have to agree. It's really good.
Very interesting.
Responding to the poet Robert Lowell's decision not to attend in 1965 event endorsed by the Johnson administration for fear that it might look like an endorsement of the country's increasing military commitments in Vietnam.
Good.
Ellison contended, quote, I think this was unfortunate. The president wasn't telling Lowell how to write his poetry. And I don't think he's in any position to tell the president how to run the government. end quote. His claims to the contrary, though. It should be noted that Ellison's support for the war was partly tied to his conviction that any other stance would weaken an administration that seemed committed to desegregation. In other words, Ellison's position at the root was not an argument against artists taking political positions, but rather a rejection of those who supported policies with which he was not comfortable. Ellison would also function as the presence against which many of the emerging black arts movement would define their identities and objectives to the extent that he rejected any ties to African sources and argued often in a tortured manner for the disentanglement of the creative arts and politics. He provided an easy target for a movement that saw art as a political weapon and a generation that was committed to reimagining the place of Africa and Africanisms in the making of black culture in the United States, signaling the tension that would characterize the relationship between Ellison and the subsequent generation of black writers was his review of Leroy Jones' 1963 dissertation on the evolution of African American music. Quote, blues people, he wrote, like much that is written by Negro Americans at the present moment, takes on an inevitable resonance from the freedom movement, but is it but is in itself characterized by a straining for a note of militancy, which is, to say the least, distracting. Its introductory mood of scholarly analysis frequently shatters into a dissonance of accusations. And one gets the impression that while John wants to perform a crucial task which he feels someone should take on, as indeed someone should, he is frustrated by the restraint demanded of the critical pen and would like to pick up a club. The brother Richard didn't really hey Richard take a shot at the water. Alright. In his implicitly disdainful reference to artistic work influenced by the civil rights campaign and the more pointed suggestion that Jones might be more drawn to the club than the pen, one can detect Ellison's characteristic resistance to the idea of the fusion of the creative and political arts. Indeed, with regard to Birmingham, Jones expressed doubt that the SCLC policy of nonviolence would work and whether he himself would be able to, quote, control himself and bow down when he ordered to pray. Oh, sorry. And remained submissive when attacked, end quote. Ellison, come, offering time. Here, Karen, put the pillow bag in front of the young side. Ellison also chided Jones for neglecting the familial linkages to use Walter White's preferred construction that bound all Americans. Quote, Jones has stumbled over that ironic obstacle which lies in the path of any who would fashion a theory of American Negro culture while ignoring the intricate network of connections which binds Negroes to the larger society. To do so is an attempt to delicate brain surgery with, with a switchblade, and it is possible that any viable theory of American culture obligates us to fashion a more adequate theory of American culture as a whole.
Mm.
The heel bone is, after all, connected through its various linkages to the head bone. Head bone connected to the heel bone. Bodily metaphors aside, as I will discuss in the next chapter, the generation Jones and his colleagues represented would reject both Ellison's almost primal attachment to the American project and his resistance in joining of the creative arts and politics. Okay, guys. 1 fat hour upon them, Mr. B. 1 fat hour. Bye, guys. Love you guys. Cheers. Love you. That was the end. Bye.